To begin, please navigate to edoctrina.org in either Chrome or Firefox. Safari works great on a Mac. Please avoid using Internet Explorer unless you know it is the most up-to-date version. From this screen, you will click on the green Login button in the upper right-hand corner. This will bring you to your eDoctrina login page. From here, your first step will be to select your district of Rochester City School District. I find it easiest to begin typing in the first word, so then your list refreshes and you can select your school district. Once you have selected your school district, next you will pick your school from the drop-down menu and then begin typing in your username and password, followed by clicking on the Login button in the bottom right-hand corner of that particular window. After clicking the Login button, you will be brought to your eDoctrina homepage. To access the Brigance assessments, you will need to navigate to the Teacher Dashboard. Click on the Teacher's Dashboard button on the right-hand side of your homepage. Once your screen refreshes, you will see two sets of filters in your filter pane. Your first step will be to select your course. By clicking on the drop-down menu, you will see all of the courses you are linked to. I'm currently logged in to a test account as Sally Superteacher, who teaches rocket science. So I will begin by selecting my rocket science course and then moving on to my classes filter. From here, I will select which class I want to pull to give this Brigance assessment to. I'll select Section 2. Then my next step would be to move down to my Select Assessments filters. I want to make sure that my test bank says Rochester City School District, and my final step on this filter pane would be to move to the Assessment dropdown. Here you will have 3 assessments to choose from: the Brigance 4, 5, and 6-year-old early childhood screenings. I'm going to select the 5-year-old screening. I'll click the checkbox to the left of the assessment name. Then I'll click anywhere off of this window so I'm able to see all of my extra buttons below. I'm going to click on the Enter Student Responses button. By hovering over this is telling me that by clicking on this button, I will be opening our Teacher Completed tool. My screen will take a second to refresh. I will have my assessment on the right-hand side, and I will have my roster of students on the left-hand side that are linked to the class that I selected on the previous screen. You have the option to change how your assessment appears on this screen by either the width or the height. So I'll just make some brief adjustments here. Currently, my assessment is in a grid view, but I can also change it to a list view. Again, this is complete personal preference. I'm going to switch back to the grid view. There are also multiple ways to score this assessment. Your first step would be to highlight the student on the left-hand side that you are currently working with. First up, I have my student Zachary. I know that Zachary is selected because his name is highlighted in yellow. His name is also right above the assessment. The first way to score this assessment for Zachary would be to go through each question individually, clicking on the drop-down menu for the answer, and selecting the answers. So for number 2, after I select the age range for Zachary, I would move on to, does he know his first name? Yes or no? Does he know his last name? Yes or no? Does he know his age? And so on. Every time I select an answer, you may notice that the number next to Zachary's name is increasing. This number tells you how many questions have been answered. As long as that color remains orange, you have not completed the assessment. Until this number and the color turn green, you know that all questions on this assessment have been answered. I'll continue on. Does he know his street address? Yes. Can he name certain parts of the body? Yes for thumbs, yes for fingernails, no for chin, and so on. Next to each question, there is this talk bubble. By clicking on this would allow you to add a teacher comment. Anything that you would want to remember throughout giving this assessment with Zachary, or perhaps any note tied to a particular question, you can add here and then save. That is just one way to go about scoring this assessment. Next, I'll show you another way by clicking on the second student on my list. For Tristan, an easy way to go about scoring this assessment would be to select his or her age range and then set all of the scores to maximum. By clicking this will default every single answer to correct. That way, all I would have to do as I'm going through this assessment is to only change where the student got an answer incorrect. Once I make these changes, you'll notice on the left-hand side, my score is changing and my percent score is also changing. Next, I'll move on to Stephen. By selecting Stephen and highlighting his name, I know that I'm ready to give Stephen this assessment. I can also set the scores to minimum. By clicking this, it will default all of the answers to no. And then the only thing I would have to change as I was going through each question on the assessment would be if the student did get the answer correct, I would switch from a no to a yes. My score would then automatically update to the right of Stephen's name. Please note, every click I'm making, changing from a no to a yes, is updating Stephen's score. If a student has mostly no's for an answer or scores below a certain range, you would then be directed on your screen to fill out this psychosocial risk factors table. You will be only prompted to score this section dependent upon the score your child receives. From here, I would scroll through and again answer the questions. You also may notice some of the colors that are changing on my rosters. There is a grade conversion table linked to these assessments. You'll notice these colors and that grade conversion table when we pull a few reports. I'll just finish up here. Another nice thing about the teacher completed screen is that it automatically saves every click you make. So once I'm completed, I just have to click the close button in the top right corner of my screen to bring me back to my teacher dashboard. When I'm back on the dashboard, I would then select the students and the report that I would like to run. Since I only gave this assessment to the first few students, I will check them, and then your best options would be either class summary, or if you scroll on down to the second page of reports, the Brigance summary. Moving back to the first page of reports, I will select class summary for the 4 students that I know have data tied to this assessment. On this screen, I'm able to see my color coding for each student. Over on the right-hand side, I'm able to see what grade they received based on the grade conversion table created and linked to this assessment. Highlighted in red, I can see that Stephen is labeled as an at-risk student. If a student is deemed at risk after the Brigance screen is administered, the Rochester City School District has determined that the social-emotional screening will have to be given to these particular students. This is a valuable tool that can be used to gain a broader understanding of the child's developmental level. To access the social-emotional screening, you will need to navigate back to the teacher dashboard and select your assessment drop-down filter. By easily typing in the word Brigance, the social-emotional scale will appear. You will follow the same process as you did with the 4, 5, or 6-year-old screening. Once you select the assessment and the student, I would just have to worry about Stephen since he was my only one labeled at risk. You'll click on the Enter Student Responses button to bring you back into the teacher completed screen. Once the assessment loads, you can dismiss this notification and then begin the social-emotional screening for those students that were labeled at risk. You will complete this assessment exactly the same way as you did either the 4, 5, or 6-year-old screening by going through each individual question, first selecting the student's age range, reading the question, and selecting the response. After each response you select, your answer will be saved to the right of the student name on the left-hand side of your screen. When you have completed the assessment, you can close out of this screen, which will bring you back to the teacher dashboard, and simply pull reports for this social-emotional screening. Once you are back on the teacher dashboard, I will continue with my reporting options. Moving on to the second page of reports by clicking on this down arrow. Next, I'll select the Brigance summary. The Brigance summary report will show you the color coding and tier that the student fell in on the grade conversion table under this screen status column. Over on the right-hand side up at the top, you'll be able to see all pieces of the screening. Below each section, you'll be able to see if the student received points and got it correct or incorrect. You can also export this report to Excel. I will now close out of this report, which will bring me back to the teacher dashboard. A few helpful tips to remember. When coming to the teacher dashboard, you will need to first filter for course and then class. You do not have to touch this select students filter. By it saying all students, that means all of the students in the class that you just selected. Since there is no red asterisk, please skip that. Once your course and class are selected first, then you would move on to step 2, making sure your test bank says Rochester City School District. Again, subject and grade also do not have a red asterisk, so please feel free to skip those fields, moving right to your assessment dropdown. Here's where you would find your Brigance 4, 5, and 6-year-old screening assessments. Again, to select the assessment, you click on the checkbox, click off of the screen, and then the Enter Student Responses button will bring you into the Teacher Completed tool. As always, please feel free to call or email us at help@edoctrina.org if you have any questions at all while you are working in the program. Thank you and have a great day.